right, folks, let's go and call the Committee of the Whole meeting for August 22nd to order. Let the record reflect a starting time. Sounds funny, but 6 o'clock. And Clerk Volk, would you please take the roll?
Councilmember Hussein.
Here.
Councilmember Wood.
Here.
Councilmember Spatafor.
Present.
Councilmember Spitzley. Councilmember Garza.
Here.
Councilmember Jackson.
Present.
Councilmember Brown.
Present.
Councilmember Daniels.
Present.
7 members present. You have a quorum of the committee.
All right, that brings us to meeting minutes for August 8th, 2022. Vice President Wood.
Thank you, President Hussein. I would move the minutes of August 8th as written for the body's approval.
All right, there's a motion on the floor. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. It takes us to public comment on agenda items. We do have 2 agenda items tonight. We have one presentation that pertains to the Red Cedar Drain Assessment, and then we do have one item for discussion action, and that is a resolution that pertains to a liquor license, specifically a redevelopment liquor license for Old Bag of Nails Pub. So with that said, we will provide anybody in the public the opportunity to come to the podium, speak to the council regarding either one of those 2 agenda items. We'll give you 3 minutes. We simply ask that you state your name for the record. So first come, first serve. Anybody for public comment? Really, seeing none. All right, let's go ahead and move on to number 5. This is a presentation for the Red Cedar Drain Assessment. This is an update. My understanding is we do have Dan Danke from Public Services. If you want to come on down, we're going to actually have you come through the double doors. You can sit right here in the well at this first table. We also have Desiree Kirkland from Finance. We appreciate you being here. So if you would join Dan, we'd appreciate it. And then my understanding is we also have Brian Sensi from GEI, if Brian is on hand.
Not yet.
Not yet. Oh, perfect. Perfect timing. All right, Brian, so if you want to come on down, Brian, if you want to come on down, you can actually, yep. Oh, perfect. So we need Tim Inman and Paul Pratt as well. Is that you 2 gentlemen? Fantastic. Come on down. And as they are coming down, just a little bit of background. We've been, obviously talking about the Montgomery Drain Project for quite some time now. Back in 2020, yeah, it's been a long time. Yep, it's been quite some time. In any event, a little bit of background for some newer council members. There's some, 50 to 70,000 pounds of pollutants, essentially, that make their way into the Red Cedar on an annual basis, at least prior to 2021 when work commenced. And again, because of the drain code, we had a lot of discussion back in 2020 going into 2021 regarding this, but due to the drain code, the drain commissioner actually put a project together to help to abate that, and then essentially allocate a cost to Lansing, Lansing Township, East Lansing, Ingham County, and the Michigan Department of Transportation. Transportation, sorry. We took on 64% of the costs, which is, I think, just south of maybe $23 million, and we pay for that 2 different ways. We have a drain tax, and that's 0.26 mils, and that's levied on every property owner in the city of Lansing. And then we also have a special assessment, essentially. I think there's some 118, 120, something like that, residential and commercial properties that are considered benefited properties. And so they pay, in addition to the 0.26, they also pay that special assessment. That being said, we asked for an update because we have received quite a bit of input from constituents. Our understanding was that this was supposed to be completed early 2022. And because of that, a lot of folks have asked, where are we at? Where is the money that's being collected going? Are we receiving the amenities that we were promised in the beginning? Are those still, slated to be essentially constructed? And when could we potentially expect this to be finished? And so with that being said, real quickly in your packet, you guys do have a few things. You have a project update as of today, believe it or not. There is a budget history document that also reflects some change orders and things of that nature. And then there's also a project update from Mr. Dan Danke from Public Services. And then there's some answers that council leadership put together. There's some answers from Ms. Desiree Kirkland. And so what I'm going to do is turn the floor over, I think, to Desiree, Ms. Kirkland first, if that's okay. Okay. If you want to go through maybe the questions, some of those answers. And then I also talked to Dan earlier. He'll have the opportunity at that point to infill if necessary, and then we'll turn it over to the 3 gentlemen on the side. Okay?
Well, good evening, everyone. And my position is really easy because I had only the first question as to where the dollars have gone. And They have the rest of the information, so I'll just address that. So based on what we collected the first couple years, it really went to pay our share of the debt to Ingham County, our drain bill this past July, which was $946,484.95. So what we collected went towards that debt, and they can give you more information on the project and everything else what we received. Now, I will tell you, just as you have, we had received a lot of calls from taxpayers trying to understand the assessment piece and how the calculation was, and we did everything we could in the treasurer's office to provide that information to try to mitigate some of the questions, but make the taxpayers feel better about the bills that they did receive.
All right, I appreciate that. With regards to Mrs. Kirkland and the finances, does anybody have any questions? Seeing none. Okay, so we're going to start, Mr. Danke, with you in terms of status update, but if you want to quickly turn the floor over, we certainly understand. Okay.
Yeah, I did provide an update from a week ago. To be honest, the Drain Commission supplemented that with a much better report with far more details, and I think you'd be better served if you let them talk about what they provided.
And that is completely fine. Yep, exactly. If you want to scooch that microphone over. Yep, if you guys want to play musical chairs.
Here, why don't you take this chair? Take this chair.
I'll take this one.
This one, put you closer. Okay.
I am, actually, I've not been in front of this body in a long time, so some of you may not know me, but I am Paul Pratt, Deputy Drain Commissioner since 2001. I'm a proud resident of the West Side, and I am thrilled to be participating in what I think is going to be a groundbreaking clean water project. I apologize that Mr. Lindeman, the Drain Commissioner, cannot be here because he is immune compromised. He has been cured of leukemia, but it left him with no immune system. So if you want to go talk, he would love company. Take an instant test, wait 15 minutes, and if you're negative, why, come on to his back porch, you know. And we talk to him constantly. He is making decisions. He probably would explain this far better than I do, but I must give kudos to the president of the council. You summarized our deal in a nutshell very, very well. Let me talk about finances first, because that has been confusing. I think the way the council chose to assess that, and this, as he said, as the president said, it's a product of the drain code. This particular drain, the taxes are assessed at large. He named all 5 taxpayers, and they are assessed on percentages as voted by the Drain Commissioner and 2 other county commissioners, and agreed to by everybody because nobody appealed. The city and the township, for that matter, decided to assess half of their amount on as a millage on the entire city, and or in the township's case, the township, and then half of the amount in special assessments on the benefited parcels. And I know that one of the things that has made people very anxious is that the only non-business people that you assessed were Frandora Hills. And we get a lot of calls, and they're justified. I mean, they want to know when this work's going to get done. And it really needs to be done. At some point, I'll Mr. Sensi will have more detailed information about that. The other thing that we've gotten is that people who have some familiarity with drain assessments have said, wait a minute, I've got this thing on my bill. I didn't know I was in the Montgomery Drain District. And so we have tried to explain to them, no, you're not. It's an at-large benefit to the entire city, and at $0.25 it certainly doesn't seem onerous to me as a taxpayer of it. But it has generated, and I know one of the confusions that I would like to sort out for the future is that whenever you sell your house, the title companies want you to pay off all the liens. And they're used to requiring people to pay off the drain assessment. Well, there's no way to pay off that millage because your property's going to change. This is a 30-year bond. You can't pay that off. And probably Ms. Kirkland and I should work on a statement that we can agree on. I mean, I know that's the answer, but when I was getting calls on it, I couldn't get confirmation from anybody at the city that that's the deal. There's just no way that somebody who's not in the special assessment area portion
It's only the
should.
special assessment area. It's
Yeah.
not the city as a whole.
Yeah,
goes with the
exactly.
property.
Well, the city as a whole gets this $0.25 thing, but it's every year, and it could be a different amount because it'll be
Just
yeah.
because we have
I'm sorry, I'm
turn and
sorry.
talk and you have a
Yeah,
side
I'm sorry.
It's difficult to hear you. Yep.
Yeah,
And so
I apologize.
That's no problem.
But yes, I think the takeaway is that it is confusing and that we have work to do to make it a little less confusing on the finance.
can I stop you just for a minute?
Yeah.
Councilman Daniels.
Thank you, President Hussein. So my question is then, is that stopping people from being able to sell their homes?
I don't believe it did in the case that I had, but I was not happy about not being able to give them a definite answer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I just pounded too hard. I'm sorry. And it certainly ends up making people unsure, and I think I've managed to talk that particular title insurance company. I mean, the house was on Westmoreland on the west side, and they're not, so it's not it's not over in the Frandor area. So that's the finance area. I believe everybody has now paid their assessments, and even that gets confusing because we have billed it separately from the regular drain assessments in order to give each of the municipalities extra time to pay it because the bonds weren't due till July 1st. But then that means it's not showing up in the regular course of events that all the city officials are in Lansing, East Lansing, and Lansing Township are used to seeing them. So we have to keep monitoring that. We got an excellent bond rate of interest for it, and that helped us keep costs down. It was just over 2% for 30 years. So we did borrow when the rates were still down, but to shift away to construction progress then, the problem is middle of '21, we hit pretty much of a brick wall in terms of skyrocketing costs. The bids we were getting were, and we made a deliberate choice at the beginning, which I still think was the right one, to not bid it as one project. You would narrow it down to only having like one contractor or two contractors really that could really pull off that size of things, and we decided to do it in divisions. We have 14 divisions, and we have them mapped out as to which ones are done, how much they cost, and how much we think is left to go. But and of course you can't guarantee it, but we believe at this point that we are $13 million short. Now, there are ways we can do that without raising the assessment. Legally we can, but we will talk to you and to the mayor before we move to do that in any way.
Yeah,
and that's not.
I'm not surprised that they're, I remember Lindemann, he was actually speaking, I think it was an article in the City Pulse, and he talked about that, certainly we could be short. I didn't expect $13 million.
Right.
But I remember in that article, he talked about the possibility of maybe re-engineering what's left.
And we are actively doing that, and that is a process that is always ongoing. I think we have detailed through the change orders and the cost documentation that we have been cutting pieces of the project that we found could be done differently. Still not really willing to give up the overall goal of the project, but we are very alert to ways that we can cut the cost. And so, just assuming that we're 13 million, we've in the hole, we've got a 2 million start on it. One is cooperate for as much as we have a little trouble communicating once in a while. We also communicate pretty well, and 1 million or 995,000 is that the city went to the county for 995,000 of county parks and trails millage, and the county Parks Commission and Board of Commissioners agreed to that. So that's going to be coming to the city using Mr. Sensi's plans to do the trails in Randy Park, and I want him to talk a little bit about that. But so that's 1 million down. Then we asked for county American Rescue Plan money, and the indication is that they're going to use it like a challenge grant. They'll say, we'll give you $1 million, but you got to show us the rest of the money. We're not going to fork it over unless you come up with it. So we are going to take that challenge, and so two down, 11 to go is the way I'm looking at it. And so I think that's the big picture. We really would like to get bids in the late fall and finish construction next year. Instead, it was planned for this year. Now, Pat has told me he considers it to be about 5 months behind now. That's essentially one season, though. So, So that's my big picture. I would like the engineers to talk too.
Yep, and before we get to
Yeah.
that, Vice President Wood.
Yeah.
Just a couple questions, Paul. One, from the document, especially that Dan provided, and I think I saw it in yours as well, that the Frandor Hills, that those bids came in significantly higher, so you haven't moved on that project yet.
That's correct, but Brian is the engineer in charge of that, and I'd like him to elaborate a little if he could.
All right, and then my next question, before Brian answers that, is, I know part of what was enticing for a lot of people here on the dais, not just having the clean water, was the amenities that were going to happen. I mean, we saw pictures of waterfalls in Frandor, and we saw, all of these things, and if I'm thinking as a household person, if I'm, short on paying for a roof, I'm not gonna put a patio in my backyard.
Right.
So how are we gonna deal with some of those amenities?
I think the amenities that are things that double as water cleaning devices. The babbling brooks do add oxygen, and I want Tim to speak to that. So, for example, and he can be a little more detailed, but let Brian talk about the Frandora Hills, because that is one area where Dan does keep asking us what's happening on that. I think in general, this summer is when we've taken stock. We gave this presentation a couple weeks ago to the County Board of Commissioners committees, and we're trying to keep people informed, but we just haven't had a plan yet for Frandora Hills, and I'd like Brian to address that.
I would suggest if maybe Brian came over to where Jane's table is, and he could sit there and the microphone was right there, and then that way if you need to chime in, you can do that.
And then Paul, when we get to you, it's simple. It's as simple as moving your chair up, and we can just move the mic just a little bit. We don't have to keep rotating chairs necessarily.
Okay.
So Brian, we appreciate you being here. So if you want to speak specifically to Frandora Hills, and then certainly we'll open it up for questions from the body. Thank you. Green light, yep.
Oh, there we go. So
There you go.
Frandora Hills was a project that we bid it in conjunction with sanitary sewer and street improvement work that was basically from the city of Lansing. So it was a combined project. We bid it so it would be under one umbrella, one construction project. Our work, most of the work up in Frandora Hills was lining storm sewer, and then there was replacement of storm sewer in some sections. So when we got into the design, obviously we were gonna have to tear up roads. And if it was just a sole project, a drain project, we would be on the hook for all the expense of doing full base reconstruction for repair of those roadways for the stretches that we have to dig up. And those are actually probably the worst pipes as far as the condition of the pipes are in that Frandora Hills neighborhood, which is the upper end of the system. So we bid a project with the city of Lansing, and the bids did come in higher. The storm or the drain portion of that came in, we were anticipating somewhere around 850,000, and it came in just a shy under $1 million. The city stuff, their cost was based on when we originally set out to do this, we had a much larger scope of what we were looking to do as far as like road improvements and such. We scaled that back, and so that ended up putting more cost on the city's portion for their road resurfacing portions that they were gonna do. So it did come in a lot higher than they initially anticipated. I don't wanna speak for them, but I know it roughly came in around 2 million for their portion, and I think Andy had told me like they were planning a little over $1 million initially, like a year or two prior when we set on that. So we have been putting it off, essentially looking for other dollars to bring down the gap we have in the construction amount, but we do want to rebid this with the city. Dan has been asking us, when are you gonna rebid this? When can we rebid this? Because the residents up there are very active about getting something done and doing something in regards, because they took a lot of time prior to explaining the work that was going to be done, how it's going to be done in phases between the city's portion and our portion that the drain was going to be doing. So that is set to, we do plan on rebidding it. We don't have a date, but as Paul explained, I think we're getting close on some of these funding issues, and hopefully it can be something done late this fall in anticipation of doing the work next year, so.
Thank you. Vice President Wood.
But if I'm not mistaken, they're paying a special assessment, not just, yeah.
Yeah, they did, they are the only, as Paul said, the really only residential properties, not
Correct.
businesses, commercial in there, are the Friendover Hills neighborhood, and they did pay a special assessment on the drain portion. I don't think that you guys were assessing them on any of your street improvements or sanitary, right? So that was the other portion of it, is they weren't assessing them for any of the stuff on the streets or sanitary sewer work repair. So it was only the drain special assessment.
But Dan, is the street work like we do when we do the CSO project, so that we're paying, we're able to use sewer funds for down the middle or wherever the drain is, and then we're using other dollars from curb to curb?
It's a complicated project. The sanitary sewer is coming from the sanitary fund. I can't tell you all the details of where the road reconstruction was, but we were, plan was using some of the millage money to go do some of the paving up there. We have restructured our program that we were going to do there because the Drain Commission reduced the scope of their underground work. And so we promised basically repaving all the streets, and we will repave all the streets. We may not put in all new curb and gutter like we had originally anticipated, but since we're not digging deep sewers, they weren't falling, the curb and gutter wasn't falling into the trench, and so we didn't have to replace it.
So where does this put us in respect to our state agreement? If we're not working, if this isn't being worked on, will this put us in violation of the state?
No.
Okay.
No,
So
see it
how
as,
long
this
does it
isn't a
take?
CSO project, it's just a sewer repair project,
Okay,
different
so
sorts
we're
of
not-
funding.
All right. That answers my question. Thank you.
All right, do we have other questions? All right, so Tim Inman, do you have anything to add, sir?
Hope he does.
Sure. Brian and myself, we are partner engineers on the project, and of the 14 divisions, approximately half of the projects are his and half are mine. Both of us have divisions that have been started, are at or have been completed, and both of us have divisions that are yet to be constructed. Earlier, I think the question was raised about the water treatment. And it's important to recognize that the Montgomery Drain has a lot of components to it, but the project is rooted in cleaning up pollutants. And the project collects the stormwater from the service area, which is highly urbanized, and it recirculates that water and delivers that water to water treatment facilities. And those water treatment facilities are spread out through the service area. And at this time, it's, I think, very important to know that, while the goal for treating 96% of the contaminants in the service area is not yet met because the project is not complete, the project has a baseline of functionality. If you're in the area, you can see that there is water flowing. We're at the conclusion of two particular contracts that relate to the circulation system for the facility. It's essentially the backbone. Without it, the stormwater can't be treated anywhere. And the conclusion of programming of the control system for the pumps and force mains are being finalized at this time, proven out. Issues are being addressed with controls in the SCADA system, and we are anticipating over the next 30 days that we're going to be closing out Division 5A and 5B, which are those very large contracts that are concluding. So I will say that the water treatment that's happening is at about half the capacity today, and that's half the capacity in terms of flow. The water flowing that you see out there is about half of the water that will be flowing when the project concludes. And I would say that that's more anecdotally, but similar. I would say it's about half of the treatment capacity. So with the work that is left to be done in contracts yet to be started, there will be some very large treatment completed at the north end of Rainey Park, and that's one of Brian's divisions. Our work basically kind of wraps together beginning to end.
And just to mention, Councilmember Wood, you asked about the amenities and those things. Most of those, a lot of the pretty pictures and renderings they saw were finished of Rainey Park when, in that second part of Rainey Park, Phase 2 is Division 12, which most of those items are in, like the water quality treatment wall. A lot of the pathways in that, though, we were going to construct by using that grant that we got through the city. That grant was really focused on what are all the pathways and sidewalks that we needed to construct that's remaining as part of the construction. If we can get the grant for it, then it works out just to do it, and it's less that we have to go and have through the contract through one of the other divisions. So, but most of those are in Division 12. We did get correspondence from the city once we bid Division 12 asking us to relook at several items. And so we did value engineer some of that stuff, but as far as what will, the end product, it's still going to be what you've seen, basically. That's still what we're planning to do, but it's just not anything that would be assessed through this remaining work. So most of that is in Division 12, and most of the remaining divisions, other than Frandora Hills, are stuff where there was like a first phase or a separate division which did the some of the skeleton, the bones of the project, and got that in the ground. Like Tim's talking about Division 5, all those items are necessary, and so is Division 2 in order to do Division 12, for example. So a lot of the remaining work is stuff that is basically add-on to finish up other work that's already been completed in divisions. Other than Frandora Hills, that's kind of the standalone one that isn't waiting on another division to finish or anything like that, or working off of work that we already did in another division. So.
All right, we appreciate that. Vice President Wood.
I'm not sure who from the administration might be able to answer this, but if $1 million from the trails money goes to the Red Cedar project, does that mean that they're gonna limit giving other money to the city for the repair of the river trail that we have been utilizing those dollars for? I mean, since we've gotten those dollars, there's been a lot of it that has been done to repair bridges and repavement and things that the city has not been able to keep up with. And you quickly grabbed the mic like you have an answer for me, Paul.
I think I do. I'm the drain commissioner's, the drain commissioner by law is on the county parks board, and I'm his designee. And I'm in there. Actually, it's a relatively rare alliance with Commissioner Grebner, who has a 4-year crusade that they are not spending that parks millage fast enough, and they're not getting it out fast enough, and they're sitting around and dithering and
Well, they can dither it over here.
yeah, exactly. And once in a while, you will hear people complain about the amount that Lansing gets. But frankly, this is a wonderful park millage, and Lansing gets a huge share of it because we're a huge share of the population. And I have not seen political resistance to giving Lansing what it needs. I mean, Lansing started the trail systems around here. I started running on these things in the 1980s, and so yeah, you've been around longer. You need to refurbish more, and I am so delighted to be down there and see that the trail is not falling into the Sycamore Creek just south of Mount Hope anymore. And
Yep, and that, I think that was the point of the question. We're running up on our
Yeah,
time. So
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Very quickly, Mr. Daniels, go ahead.
Thank you, President Hussein. Really, my question is for the administration. So if they're still waiting on the Frandora Hills and this kind of come to a standstill, I've had a lot of complaints about the quality of the roads there. Are they actively doing anything to fix the roads in the meantime, or are we just waiting until this project moves forward to have those roads repaved, and everyone's just kind of gonna have to wait?
Yep, you gotta turn the mic on.
Council, I'd have to find out unless Dan has any more insight.
Operations and maintenance will be doing patching out there as needed, but we're not doing anything large scale until this project gets going.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, fantastic. Other questions, comments? Seeing none, I want to thank Dan, Desiree, Paul, Tim, and Brian. Thank you so much for being here. We certainly appreciate it. All right, you guys have a good one. That takes us to our only discussion action item of the night. This is a resolution, again, that pertains to a liquor license for Old Bag of Nails Pub. We had originally referred this at our August 11th meeting to city operations. Due to some scheduling issues and quorum issues, we did not have a meeting as we had intended. And so due to some urgency being created on our end with our issues, we are looking to have this discharged from city of operations, and we'll actually take this up as part of our meeting tonight, and then it'll be up for final consideration during our council meeting. So with that said, Councilman Daniels.
Thank you, President Hussein. So as Vice Chair of City Operations, I'd move to discharge the liquor license for the Old Bag of Nails Pub.
All right, there is a motion on the floor for the discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. Councilman Daniels, do you have anything to address before moving the resolution?
Negative.
Okay, just very quickly, this does deal with a redevelopment area that has been previously approved by council. We've actually taken a look at a few of these now. The requisite investment, as I understand it, on site allows for another redevelopment liquor license, and that's why we're taking a look at this one. This would be the first Old Bag of Nails in Michigan. It's native to Columbus, Ohio, believe it or not. They do have to be open at least 5 days, 10 hours a day for on-site dining. So a considerable amount of their menu is food in addition to the beverage. And this has received all departmental approvals that are necessary. So with that being said, Councilman Daniels, we simply need a motion.
Motion to move it?
Yep.
Move to council? Approve it?
There you go. There's
My
a
bad.
motion for approval with regards to the resolution before us. Further questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And with that and no other business before the body, we are adjourned at 6:38.